In this session, we're going to talk about how to manage equipment with Chronicle. To set up equipment in Chronicle, you're going to go to the Main System Setup, and in the Setup, you're going to go to the Equipment tab. In the Equipment tab, you will see a number of different categories of equipment that you can add or change. For each category, you will see a number of different types of equipment within that. If you need to add additional categories for equipment or additional types within it, you can click Change Equipment Categories, and that will take you to the Categories tab with equipment selected. You could have also come to the Categories tab directly. On the left-hand side, you can choose to add new categories or rename the existing category. On the right-hand side, you will see the subcategories or types of equipment within that category. Notice that while Chronicle's focus really is on tracking the production equipment, that's the key piece in terms of jobs. You want to know what production equipment is there. Chronicle does let you track other types of items. You can track cell phones or keys or laptop computers or pagers, uniforms, or any other items that you want to keep track of, and you could associate equipment with people, like your employees, rather than with jobs. So the notion of equipment in Chronicle is broader than specifically the production equipment that you take to a job, though that is a key part of it. Within any list of equipment, you can either click Edit or double-click an item to rename an item. If you need to, you can click Add to add additional categories. Once you're done customizing the list of equipment, you would return to the Equipment tab. On the Equipment tab, if you've already set up any equipment, you'll see that listed for the corresponding type. To add additional pieces of equipment, simply pick the type of equipment that you want to add and click the Add button. And here you will see that you can change the type from within the Add screen as well if you need to. Chronicle automatically gives each item a prefix. It bases that based on the initial letters of the name that you've chosen above, so that it picks AM for air movers, or AS for air scrubbers, or simply a D for a dehumidifier. That prefix, when you're looking at equipment in Chronicle, you can simply type that prefix in the locate entry. So for example, if you typed a letter D in the locate entry on the equipment screen, you would see all dehumidifiers. Chronicle also numbers each piece of equipment. If you're putting in the first item in that category, you would start at number 1, but you can start at any number that you wish. The name Chronicle automatically forms for you based on the type of equipment, the prefix that you've chosen, and the item number. You can customize any one of those so that if we wanted, for example, a different prefix, we could simply customize. And then down at the bottom, we indicate how many pieces of equipment we want to add in that category. While you aren't required to associate equipment with particular departments, and Chronicle will let you use equipment with any job regardless of what departments the equipment is associated with, you can associate equipment with particular departments if you wish. Once you're done with the entries on the screen, you can click Save and Close to add these pieces of equipment and return to the list, or you could click Save and add another, and then pick, for example, a different type of equipment and add additional equipment. Once you click Save and Close, Chronicle tells you that the equipment is added, and you can see that equipment is added in the background. If you had clicked Save and add another, you would stay on the same screen. If you clicked Save and Close, then when you click OK, the screen will close and you're returned to the list. From there, you could choose to add additional equipment. You could choose to view a different type of equipment and add items there. And when you're done, you would close the Main System Setup to return to the main Chronicle program. To associate equipment with a job or with a person in Chronicle, you would go to the Equipment tab, and you would then find the equipment that you wanted to check out. You could generate a list of all available equipment, or you might choose to generate a list specifically of production equipment, or you might want to limit that to a particular type of production equipment. Once you've got the equipment that you want to check out, you would check the specific items that you wanted to move to a job, and you'd click Move Item. If the equipment is currently in your warehouse, Chronicle is going to assume that you want to move it to a job, and it's going to drop a list of all of your current customers. You'd simply click Customer that you want to move. You would choose the date that you move the equipment and a time if you wish, and then you'd click OK to move the equipment. Chronicle gives you the option of indicating which employee that moved the equipment. You can check someone if you wish, and then click Next. If you don't care to indicate who moved the equipment, you could simply not check anyone and click Next. Chronicle will then tell you that you have successfully moved that equipment to a particular job. Click OK, and you're returned to the equipment list. You can also associate equipment with a person rather than a job. Notice that you can type in the locate entry the beginning of an item code, and that is an alternate way to bring up all of the equipment that begins with that item code. So if, for example, I want to associate an office key and a warehouse key with a particular employee, I can select those items. I can choose to move the item. In this case, I'm going to indicate that instead of checking those items out to a job, that I'm going to associate them with an employee. I can then pick the employee I want to associate them with. If I wanted to, I could pick a date, but with an employee, I probably simply want to know what he has. I can click OK. I don't care who gave it to him. I'm going to click Next, and now it tells me that those two items have been associated with that employee. It can be useful to know what's with a particular employee, both if the employee happens to announce that he's going to leave, you now have a record of everything that you need to get back, or even if you just want to know what it is that you have and where it is. To check equipment back from a job, you could either say that I want to find everything that's associated with a particular customer, or you could go find the job or the person. In this case, we associated equipment with Christopher Robin, and there is an equipment tab here, and you will see on that tab everything that is currently at the job, and also everything that's previously at that job. Simply double-click the equipment currently assigned, and Chronicle will take you back to the Equipment tab with the equipment that is at that job. You'll notice at the bottom of the screen, it tells you that we have 11 items located at the job for Christopher Robin. To mark those items returned, you would select the items you want to return. If you're bringing everything back, you'd click Select All, and then you would indicate to move the item. If you didn't want to bring all of it back, if you wanted to leave a couple items still at the job and simply check some items back, you can select or unselect individual items. Here we're going to move everything. We indicate that we want to move it. If the equipment is currently at a job, Chronicle assumes that you want to bring it back to your company. If you have multiple locations entered, then Chronicle will let you pick the location that you want to move the equipment to. You would indicate the date that you moved the equipment back. Chronicle defaults to the current date and time. Once those entries are correct, you would simply click OK. And Chronicle will tell you that the equipment has been brought back and the process is done. Let's talk now about monitoring your equipment once it is checked out. We can, as we already noted, go to either the People or the Jobs tab and select a specific job, and go to the Equipment tab on the panel on the right, and we can now see all equipment that is currently at the job, and we can also see the history. We can see every piece of equipment that has been at that job, when it was taken to the job, when it was returned, and the precise amount of time that it was there. Back on the Equipment tab, we can also monitor equipment in a number of ways. If we're interested in seeing equipment that we've assigned to a particular employee, we can click Items Located With under Person, and we can then type the first couple letters of the employee's last name, and I can now see everything that I've assigned to that particular employee. And I can look to see what is unavailable, either by checking all unavailable things, or, for example, I could limit that to unavailable production equipment, or unavailable equipment in a particular category. If I drag the slider bar to the right, I can see a little more detail. I can see where the item is and how long it's been there. And you'll notice a sort by entry above the list. I can sort this list by location to see everything that's in a particular place. I can also sort that list by the number of days out to see how long it's been there. I can now check to see if anything has been out for a particularly long time to make sure that something hasn't been forgotten. Finally, I'd like to talk briefly about adding documents and journals for pieces of equipment. You can right-click a piece of equipment, and you'll notice that Journal is on that menu, as is Documents, or you could click the Go menu, and Journal and Documents are there. Or you could double-click a journal or document-related entry on the panel. To get to those, and you'd add journals and documents for equipment in the same way that you would add journals and documents for jobs or people or organizations in Chronicle. The benefits of associating documents with a piece of equipment. Let's say that you purchase a new piece of equipment and you have a warranty card. Right now, the warranty card may go into a box somewhere or may get lost completely. Most of the time, you can't find a warranty card when you actually need it. The same thing would be true for a piece of equipment with some complex instructions. The instruction manual normally doesn't stay with a piece of equipment, and when someone needs it, it takes a good deal of searching to find it. With Chronicle, you can associate those documents with the piece of equipment, scan in the warranty card, scan in the sales receipt, scan in a copy of a repair order if there's been repairs on a vehicle or something like that. And you end up with a complete set of documentation related to the piece of equipment with the piece of equipment as a permanent record in Chronicle. Same thing is true with the journal. If you do some service on a piece of equipment, or if you have a problem with a piece of equipment, you can simply add a journal for the piece of equipment and keep a record. Now, if at some point in the future a piece of equipment has to be returned, you have a complete record with the piece of equipment. This is the end of this Chronicle training video. If you'd like to give us any feedback, please email editor@gochronicle.com. Tell us what video you watched and what your comments are. Thanks.